Hi guys, welcome back to the Wow Embossing YouTube channel. It's Jane here today with another instalment of Exploring Embossing. Today I'm going to be using the new trio, Pastel Pearls. Now this is a really beautiful trio, really sophisticated colours, and you can see I've swatched them out onto some white cardstock here. So we've got the hint of green, the hint of pink, and the hint of blue. And they're really very subtle colour when added to white card. So I thought I would emboss it onto some black card and see what the difference was. And as you can see there, it's huge. You would not think it was the same embossing powder. It really is amazing the difference in effect that you can get embossing onto dark cardstock instead of white. So I'm just using a panel of black cardstock today from Concord and Ninth. It's my favourite black cardstock. And I am dusting it down with my cottontail embossing tool from Rabbit Hole Designs. But any anti-static powder will do. And the reason we do that is just to get rid of any oils or anything from our fingers on the cardstock, which the embossing powder will stick to. So I'm just holding my stencil in place with some magnets here. I've got a magnetic craft mat, and the stencil that I'm using is the Geo Leaf stencil from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm pressing my embossing ink down onto the stencil rather than swiping it, just to make sure that the stencil doesn't shift at all. And if you don't have something like a magnetic craft mat, I would just suggest maybe taping the stencil to the cardstock underneath with a bit of low tack masking tape, just to make sure that that doesn't shift around at all. So I'm just moving my magnets away now and checking that I've got good coverage, which I have. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to start applying my embossing powders now. So I'm starting off with the hint of pink at the top. So I'm just dusting that over the top section, and I'm going to tap any excess off onto my scrap piece of paper underneath. So I'm just making sure to pour the embossing powder away from the embossing ink on the card so that I don't end up covering the whole thing in one colour. So I'll pour the excess back into the jar there and save the rest of that for another project. Then I'm going to bring back my scrap paper and apply the second embossing powder. So this is the hint of blue. So again, just sprinkling that on to where I want it and tapping it off away from the rest of the embossing ink that hasn't been covered yet. And then I'm going to go in with my final colour, which is the hint of green. And you may have noticed that even though I added my anti-static powder at the beginning, I do have some embossing powder in a couple of spots where I didn't want it on the panel. So I'm just going to brush that off with a dry paintbrush. And now I'm just going to heat set my powders. So I've put my heat tool on the highest setting so I can melt the powders nice and quickly and make sure that I don't get any warping on my panel at all. And just look at that transformation. Look at that turquoisey blue that the hint of green turns into. It's just amazing that these powders started off as white, and now look at that. You've got these beautiful, shiny, metallic, pearlescent colours shining through. And I just think that's so stunning against that black background. So I don't really want to cover much of that up, to be honest. So I've decided that what I'm going to do is take a big sentiment die and just pop that in the space in the top right hand corner. So I'm letting the embossing take centre stage on my card. So I've die cut the Big Hugs sentiment from Concord and Ninth's Just Say More dies. So I've cut it out twice from white cardstock, which I am gluing together with some liquid glue. And the good thing about using liquid glue for die cuts like this is that you get a little bit of wiggle room while it dries, so you can make sure that you're actually wiggling that right into position and that they're lining up perfectly. So that's what I'm just doing with the white ones now. And then I've also die cut the sentiment from some holographic cardstock as well, which I thought went really, really well with the colours in the embossing powders. So I'm also sticking that on to the top with some liquid glue, and we've got a nice sturdy sentiment to add to the card now. So I'm just gluing that on to the shadow die, which I've cut out of some adhesive vellum. So if you've not come across adhesive vellum before, I'd highly recommend it. It's fantastic. No more hiding your glue in strategic places behind the die cut to make sure it's not showing through on the front. The whole thing is covered in a layer of adhesive. You just peel the back off like a sticker and you can pop it onto your project. So what I probably should have done at this point is dust off the rest of the anti-static powder from my card panel. But I think I was just a bit giddy to get on and make the card, to be honest. So I have popped the sentiments on and I will fix that later. So on the back of the panel now, I am adding some foam tape, or a lot of foam tape, because obviously you don't want your card to be all saggy when you send it through the post. And I am going to stick this down onto a white card base. Now, my panel is A2 size, but I thought it would look nice with a white border. And I didn't want to lose any of that embossing detail. So I've actually just grabbed a 5x7 card and I'm popping the A2 panel on there so it's got an even border around the top and the two sides. And then off camera, I'm just going to take that away and trim it down so the border is even around the whole card. And now I'm catching up to what I should have done earlier, which is getting rid of the anti-static powder and also a couple of little marks from the liquid glue which were left on the holographic cardstock. So all I've done there is just got my stamp chamois and just wet it ever so slightly. Obviously you don't want it too wet because it will make your card warp a little bit. And I'm just wiping off any of that glue residue and also the anti-static powder. And look at the difference it makes. The contrast between the powders and that background is just fantastic. And of course, you know, you can never have too much bling. So I thought I'd finish it off with a few sequins. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to link to this sequin mix because I think it is one from Lucy's Cards, who's recently closed her store. But there are some similar, I do have a similar Heffy Doodle one that I can link to below instead if you're looking for something with similar colours. So those sequins in place, that finishes my card for today. So I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you would like to see some more inspiration from me, please do feel free to head over to my YouTube channel. My YouTube name is Card Days Night. And also, please make sure that you like this video, drop us a comment if you'd like to, and subscribe to Wow's YouTube channel for more inspiration. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you again soon. Bye.